Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard with you. We're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino for the next 3 hours. Big program lined up. Great guests. We'll go to New York coming up in 30 minutes. Paul Bovey, professional sports bettor, on the program at that time. We'll get his thoughts on his Knicks do or die tonight against the Pacers, college football, and how this sport appears to be changing rapidly right before our eyes. Adam Rittenberg coming up on the show. Most wins in June with Chris Bennett here at Circa. And Wes Reynolds, lifelong Indy fan, his thoughts on the Pacers and the Knicks. We'll also get into our best bets that we have in Major League Baseball. And the Phillies on the precipice here of finishing off the Braves. If they win this, that's a huge game and a huge win for that most wins in May market, because they'll have a commanding lead then over a couple of other teams, and they have a doubleheader game tonight, obviously, with Wheeler going against Sale, which is a big boy. Paulie, I know we've criticized Oklahoma City in the playoffs because of some of their weird performances that they had, but now this team is getting better as the playoffs drag on, and at home, they are taking teams out in a body bag. This is really remarkable now when you look at the eye-popping numbers. Their net rating overall for the playoffs is 11.8. At home, they have an offensive rating of 121.8 and defensive rating of 97.2. That net rating is plus 24.7 at home. And now again, after last night, like, teams are scoring no points against them, basically. I mean, after that 121 that they allowed to Denver in Game 1, it's been 106 or below every single time. And of the 9 playoff games they've had at home so far, the median score is 99. And last night, 9 points allowed to Minnesota in the first quarter, and that's after allowing 8 in the first quarter against Denver in Game 4? This is the team that we saw over 82 games in the regular season.
Yes, it's an all-time great defense between the length, the athleticism, the depth, and how they turn you over. It's bananas what they're doing, turning you over. And Minnesota had more turnovers than field goals in the first half. The Denver series threw me. It threw a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can be in that all-time discussion when you go 7 against a team that I don't think was very good.
Well, it also tells you, like, how good is Nikola Jokic?
That too, I know. But they're so damn good at home as well. The only home game they lost, they blew. I mean, they're up 9 with 2:40, and they choked that off. But you just see with how good SGA is, and if Williams is knocking down shots, and this is from a scout. Game 4 sent the biggest message to the rest of the league. I saw it, and I'm scared for the future because they're that good. They're so young. I think this is me talking. I think only one guy is over 30 on the roster.
Oh, yeah, the average age is 24.
Yep. So moving forward, he says, I expect them to win it this year, and then who knows what happens in the future, how many times they could win it, because they have all these picks, too. And I give Presti credit. He never swung for the fences, and you could say Paul George impacted 2 teams big time with that trade, what happened.
No doubt.
Because OKC got the better player of the deal, and then also what happened where they got all those picks as well, what that turned into.
Sure. Go back from an edition of Do You Concur on May 9th. That's 20 days ago when I asked you, we're going to look back after the NBA Finals and say, why didn't we bet Oklahoma City over and over and over again when they were plus money? And I said, Paulie, do you concur? That was a Friday. They played that night against Denver. They were tied 1-1. They lost. But that was the Friday was after the 149-106 beatdown in Game 2. They lost that game to go down 2-1 to Denver in their series.
Yeah.
But they were sitting there plus money. Now look at this now.
I know they were lousy offensively in those road games. They still haven't covered a road game in the playoffs, and they played with their food in the Memphis series. So, yeah, they finally woke up, and they were great in Game 7. But then again, Denver also had a guy when Gordon, who was sick. Porter had one arm. They didn't have any depth, and Westbrook sucks. So, I mean, but I give them credit now, and they just destroyed Minnesota. And you're right. He's right. Game 4 was scary. Because Minnesota, with those 3 guys on the bench to go for 20-plus. Thanks for checking in last night, Walker, by the way. My God, doesn't make a shot. But for those guys to go off and score 126 points at home and you still lose.
Right, I know.
And what happened, it just shows you. But you're right, to what it is now. I mean, now the Game 1 number's up at DraftKings. If they're 9 against Indiana, and the total's 233. And then the series price is $8. So
$8 now.
Yeah, so how it's $7 if they play the Knicks. How are you going to hedge this?
Okay, first of all, If they're $8 against the Pacers, they need to be $14 against the Knicks.
Yes.
That's on paper, we'll see it play out. The Knicks will not beat the Thunder, and I think they have little chance to even be in the series. Again, the power rating here, it's completely backwards. The Knicks are not a better team than the Pacers. The Pacers need to be a smaller number against the Thunder than the Knicks are. That's me talking. I firmly believe that at this point. And if you're not paying attention and watching the Pacers-Knicks games, or if you are and that's your conclusion, then we just completely disagree. So, and I don't think the Knicks series would be close. I don't even want to see it happen because I think it's going to be unwatchable like some of these games have been.
I think they would have beat Boston. I didn't see the Boston meltdown coming. Certainly, I'm assuming Tatum didn't get hurt, though, with that, losing to the Knicks. But I still think OKC would have beat a healthy Boston team in the finals. I think Indiana can it'll be a great matchup if that happens with their great offense and tempo against the number one defense. But, I mean, you're in a great spot, you would think, that you're holding these tickets 75, 100, 125 to 1. Even if you play the double, OKC to win game one in the series is a hedge. That's got to be $4.
No, see, you had to be hedging on Oklahoma City weeks ago.
Yep.
If you had these big numbers on the Pacers, just coming out of maybe just to win the West, to win the title, whatever it was, you had to be involved. And by the way, again, after last night's action, I can tell you that I've seen the tickets from multiple people watching, listening to the show, including Scott in the Pacific Northwest. He absolutely crushed it with the cross-sport parlays, and this was the last leg, Oklahoma City, just to win the West. Again, you don't have to slap on a team to win the title. Right. Just concentrate on conferences.
What was it? Little Florida? What else was it?
Little Florida on there. Both Floridas, by the way. College basketball and the Panthers to win the East.
There you go.
That was it. And he had some other bets that were sprinkled in there. Guess what he's doing after last night? He's taking his wife to Bora Bora.
Come on.
Yeah. They're going in July.
Sanders?
He said last night was the most successful betting night. Now, with them, the results getting there and the tickets cashing, the best betting night he's ever had his entire life. And he's not the only one, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Massero took home $60,000 yesterday with Oklahoma City winning the West. Now, he gave some back. He talked about that with Matt Humans and Tim Murray on primetime. He gave back, I think it was $10,000 or $12,000 hedging. But so that ticket with Oklahoma City and Florida and some other stuff tied in with the cross-sport parlays paid $60. Yeah,
he did a good job last time he was in studio explaining how he puts them together and how he had it closed out with OKC and how to put that thing together. Good job.
And I want to run this by you, Paulie. I saw a good tweet today that said if you go back to last year, if you look at like net rating, margin of victory, all of the analytics, the numbers will tell you that Boston and Oklahoma City are maybe two of the best teams of all time in the history of the NBA. But the person also said the more NBA that is played like it is today and the more three-point shooting that we get, it's going to continue to be like that. And the person said there's no way that Boston and Oklahoma City are all-time great teams. The numbers tell you that because of the roller coaster games that we have and all the three-point shooting. Like if you're good at it and if you're also solid like OKC is at defending the three, your numbers overall are going to look like you're one of the best teams of all time. I will fight anybody, again, that Boston last year was not all-time good. They were not.
No way.
Their numbers tell you that they were, but because of the three-point shooting, and by the way, the path that they had to win that title.
Everyone got hurt.
Right.
Yep. You know, back in the you couldn't play zone. That's the other thing. And but it's still, Denver gave them problems throwing a zone at them as well. To me, it's the 2017 Warriors and what they were able to do. And just Curry, Durant, Thompson. It ends there.
I would agree.
I mean, how do you stop that? And they lost one playoff game that season, and that's when the Cavs set the record for most points in a half. That's what it took to beat them.
Right.
So,
I don't know.
But the future is so bright, though. To think that you could win the title, or you're at least huge favorites, and then you have all these assets and picks and what that could turn into. And not to mention, you could also go out if you want. I don't think he will, but then Presti could package this stuff and make a trade.
If he wants to.
Yeah.
I mean, he is holding so many chips. He's got so much hand. It's incredible at this point. Now, I guess if you go back to the start of even last year, and then if you fast forward a couple of years from right now, maybe this is going to turn into one of the all-time dynasties because they are set up to just dominate the league for, again, fill in the blank with how many years. They are the youngest team in the NBA. And if the guy, like you just said, what does he want to do with it? Does he not want to? Look at how they've drafted, by the way. Mm-hmm. How good is Cason Wallace? The guy could be a borderline superstar in this league at some point.
Caruso was a Laker, too.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff about. Go back to that Laker team that won the title in the bubble. And go back to some of the guys that were on that team, and they let them go.
And a little
Which
bit,
I know you can't keep everyone together, but that also goes back to drafting.
Like pre-LeBron. So they actually did a great job drafting guys, but they were terrible at developing then.
Correct.
And then they would give up, and hey, look at what would happen all of a sudden.
Yeah. I never saw that in L.A. out of Randall. He got hurt right away. There was another guy you had. You had Randall. You had Caruso. You had Ingram. You gave away Zubac. Yep. Magic Johnson gave him away. Mm-hmm. He's a stud. Right? List goes on. Smarter bets start with VSiN Pro. You have until Saturday. Lock it in. 14 months, $199. Less than 50 cents a day. The morning email from Bill 80. Every best bet, every host, every guest. The betting splits, DK and Circa. The dog videos. Get the VSiN Watch app. The NFL betting guide drops soon. Humans fast food rankings coming soon as well. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code PRO. Sign up now. Get it. Deal ends Saturday.
So my Wolves 40-1 ticket is a coaster. I didn't hedge because Oklahoma City was 330 for the series.
I know. I had 33. Again, what are you going to do? I did the double, but
tough.
Yep. You got to steal one on the road, and that's.
I know.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Should have stolen game one. I mean, I love betting futures. Love it. I am not a big fan of being a year early. I was all over Oklahoma City last year.
Yep.
And after what happened, their numbers were so short this year. I'm like, I'm not going to go back to the well.
And that surprised me. I know it was kind of a fluke, but I don't think P.J. Washington will ever shoot like that again, and that's what took you out.
Up next, we'll get into Game 5s that we have tonight, and I'm going to run a blockbuster trade in the offseason that has been thrown out there by Paulie. I think bettors would be cutting in line to bet this team next year.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We head back to New York now as a friend of the show, friend of the network, professional sports bettor, lifelong Knicks fan, Paul Bovey joins the program, and he is on the Progressive guest line. Good afternoon, buddy. You were feeling really, really good against, with this team before the Boston series. Feeling probably even better before the series against Indiana started. How are you feeling tonight with Game 5 looming?
Well, put it this way. I'm not going to the game. I think I've been scarred by all these elimination game losses, starting with I think the first one was Miami, 96-97, when Hardaway went off. And then we saw Indiana with the Patrick Ewing miss. And then last year, culminated with last year, even though it wasn't the Knicks' fault per se, just because of all the injuries, it was still tough to take. So I'm just going to sit back, watch it in a bar or a public place, and just hope for the best. And maybe there'll be a Game 7. Who knows?
You're going to go out in a public setting and watch the game, and you've admitted to being like a lunatic when you watch them and things are not going well?
Well, I always say that, and they end up in my room. I said that the other night.
Yes. All right. So how do you want to attack this from a prop standpoint with Cat being limited, questionable for the game, and it figures to be a lot of Brunson tonight? And I know as a Knick fan, you're hoping maybe the whistle goes your way too.
Well, I'm sure you guys have touched on this. The rating, the Knicks net rating with both those guys on the court has not been good. In fact, the Knicks win that game 106-100, perhaps by default, because Brunson gets into foul trouble, and they end up, knocking it out of the park when he was out of the game. So the strategy by Tibbs in question. Will he put those guys on the court at the same time, and will Cat play? But either way, I think Brunson gets over the number at 30.5, but I'm going to look towards Josh Hart, actually. He's been averaging 4.3 shots this series. Now, throughout the course of the year, it's been 9 to 10. I think you can eliminate that game where he played 29 minutes. only because he had 2 fouls in the first 7 minutes, and I think it took him out of the game. But rebounding-wise, I believe he had 6 that game, but the other 3 games, 10, 11, 13. So he should do some work on the boards. He's still sitting at around 9 or 9.5. And on the point total, I had him at 8.5 last game. He rang up some points early, paused for a while, eventually went over the number, but I'm going to go over Josh Hart again at plus money.
What do you make of the overall total for the game? And by the way, I'm on Hart over the rebounds tonight again, based on some of the things that you just talked about as well. Before we came on the air 40 minutes ago or so, Paul, the total was as high as 224.5 at some books. Now I'm looking, it's down to 222. There's a 2.5 out there. Here at Circuit's 221. So we're talking about a 3.5 point move since the show started.
Obviously, some of that could be a reflection of Cat, but I don't think that would necessarily suppress the scoring all that much. But look, I think the Knicks score points here. It's a desperation game. 2 back, they went under the team total by 5. And last game, they just blew out the number. I still like the Knicks from the standpoint of scoring inside the paint. I think they've been successful doing that and putting up points. Halliburton has certainly, he's done better shooting-wise than during the regular season against the Knicks, because he is exactly, I think he's 14 of 42 from beyond the arc, and he was 6 of 23 during the regular season. But I definitely think the Knicks should score some points. If they're going to go down, they're going to go down by scoring at least 109, 110, 111, 112, which I guess you're going to need 112 to get this thing over the number, and I think they should get there.
Okay. How much heat has Tibbs taken back there? For some of the people question the substitution patterns and guys that are out there and guys that play from time to time and what he's doing.
Yeah, but everybody's going to grade the result. Now, he finally played a 5-man rotation, although Precious only logged 2 minutes. Okay, so throw him out. But the other guys, they did well. I mean, you had a +6 and a +11 by 2 of those bench players. So they were actually the best 2 guys on the court with respect to plus minus. So at least he got a couple guys involved in the game that weren't getting in. But I think he could bring Precious in for a few more minutes, but at least get that rotation going. But everybody's going to grade the result, okay? It's easy to do that. I mean, Stephen A. Smith slams the guy. Tibbs came in here in 2020. The team has made progress. Nobody expected them to get to the point where they are. And yes, he's under scrutiny because he does play these guys a lot of minutes. I get it. But at some point, you do want to go with your best.
Over point spread, by the way. It was 5, now 4.5. Paulie and I have kicked this around pretty much the entire series. Again, you're a lifelong Knicks fan, and you liked them before the series started, but do these numbers make sense to you? How Indiana was laying 2.5 at home, and the Knicks, I mean, after game 1, they were 6.5 at one point, and game 2, another 4.5 tonight?
Well, look, the Knicks are obviously in a must-win situation. Now, the advantage Indiana has, and I'll use the term that's thrown around, and that's house money. They know they have in their hip pocket a game 6. So sometimes when you come out a little loosey-goosey, that actually can work in your favor. I think the Knicks aren't going to get a free roll here. They're going to have to work for this victory if they get it. And I say if, and that's the reason I'm not going, because I don't want to be there for the coronation of the Indiana Pacers beating the New York Knicks for the second straight year. So the Knicks are going to have to earn it. The Pacers figure to stay close. They don't have a lot of pressure on them right now. So I think that could make for a tighter contest.
Good point. And Indiana's 3-0 in that situation. You win game 1 at Cleveland, not happy with the split. You get game 2, you're up 3-1. You close them out in 5, and then you won game 1 in New York. You felt good. Well, we're not going to settle for the split. You win game 2 as well. So maybe same thing happens tonight. What advice would you give to people holding big tickets on the Pacers to win it all? And you're seeing at some books OKC as high as $8 series price. What could you do here?
I understand. OKC is a big favorite. OKC, let's not get caught up in recency. I mean, 128, 126, that could have been a 2-2 series heading back to OKC. They haven't exactly been road warriors during these playoffs.
Right.
And one thing about Indiana, they always have a puncher's chance because they can get hot. We saw that a few times. We saw that during the regular season when they went 21 of 46 from beyond the arc. Same as the Celtics. These guys got ballers and they got shooters. So I don't know what I do with it right now. I really haven't given it too much thought. My focus is on the Knicks. But if you're holding an Indiana ticket, that's not bad. Good for you.
Yeah, you're in a good spot. By the way, so you have 3 season tickets to the Knicks games as well. What are the prices like tonight compared to what you thought they might be for Game 5 before the series started?
I have to be honest with you. I did not even check. I have a partner. I don't micromanage the guy. It takes some pressure off me to have him take care of business, and that's exactly what he does. And whatever happens, happens, and wherever it lands, and I can't control it.
You offered Wes Reynolds a ticket, and he said no?
I did. I told him I'd give him a ticket at face value.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drop my drawers all the way, but I'll drop them halfway.
I can't believe I said no. How much notice you give him?
I'm stealing that line.
I sent it to him 2 days ago.
Oh, he said no. I can't believe that.
2 days ago, huh?
Oh, wow.
Actually, no, I sent it to him early yesterday morning.
Okay,
I gave him ample time to fly cross country and take in a game at the Mecca.
Yep.
All right. Would you do this trade, by the way? Towns, OG, McBride, and some pick swaps for Giannis and Kyle Kuzma?
No.
Neither would I.
We have a nucleus. Let's build from the nucleus and add a piece or two. We don't need to dismantle the team.
Great appearance.
Yeah.
Good luck. No notes as always. You're the man. Photographic memory. Take care, my friend. Good job.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Don't destroy the hotel room tonight if it goes sideways.
At DraftKings, the Pacers are plus 2.5 games plus $1.15. Look at how well they played since January.
I actually think you might be able to find a better price on that once they all come out. There was who was the team? We liked the team a lot plus 2.5 games. It was minus 130, and the series price was nowhere near this. Was it maybe the Pistons against the Knicks?
I know that Indiana-Cleveland was funky.
Yeah, that might have been it. That might have been it.
I thought the $5 was nuts down the street.
Win loses next, and we'll touch on tonight's Major League Baseball card coming up here on VSiN.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Good to have you on board here on a Thursday. We're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Kicking off this hour, talking some college football. Paulie, a lot about to change here in the sport. It's very soon, by the way, going to look unlike anything that we've ever seen for eternity with college football. And we head out here to the Progressive Guest Line as Adam Rittberg joins the program, does a great job covering the sport for ESPN, and he is on the Progressive Guest Line. Adam, good afternoon. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Back at you. I think college football is, most people would agree that it's about to change for the bad. So with that in mind, how would you rank like the worst of the worst with this new SEC and Big Ten proposal?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to see how the week has gone. With the Big Ten actually had its meetings last week in Southern California, and didn't do any media. So it's been interesting to see the SEC out and saying a lot with its coaches and athletic directors, and obviously Commissioner Greg Sankey. I think what's interesting is this debate with the number of automatic qualifiers versus one that would certainly open it up to more of the at-large teams, which I think actually could benefit the SEC. Given how strong its teams often are. So I don't like the proposals with so many automatic qualifiers. I understand why you would do that if you're, especially the Big Ten, maybe less so the SEC. But I think to have this thing as wide open as possible while trying to standardize the schedules, and that's something that people in the Big Ten have told me is really important, because they don't play the same number of conference games, regardless of what data they want to throw out there. So I think that's a really important thing that, it's been a very, very long process, but can we get some level of standardization with the schedules in college football?
Will the SEC play 9? Where are we at with that?
I think the apocalypse will come first. I mean, it's been this thing that's been literally talked about for, more than 10 years.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the Big Ten went to 9 conference games quite a while ago. I don't have the year in front of me, but it was a while back. And, obviously the Big 12 has been there as it's been playing round robin, and then it's expanded. ACC has not gone to 9. They've stayed at 8. SEC has stayed at 8. And it's created these really bizarre schedule rotations where you'll play a team much more often outside of your league than one within your league. So, South Carolina plays Clemson, Georgia plays Georgia Tech, Kentucky plays Louisville a lot more often than teams that are in its own conference, which it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yep. So, this would be a kicking and screaming type situation if and when they get to 9 conference games.
Do you like the 5+11?
Yeah, I like it more. I think, again, if you're going to keep championship weekend, which we can certainly discuss whether it's worth keeping, but if you're going to crown a champion, I think that's an incentive to win the championship and clinch a spot in the playoff. And, and then that game is important, even for the team that loses, to potentially, help their at-large case or hurt their at-large case. And then, the committee's not perfect, but it's used in pretty much every college sport to put teams into the postseason. And I think again, if the schedules can be a little bit more even, I think that can be a way to do this. My positions may be different than a lot of people's. I just believe that the system is big enough that the right teams are going to make it in, the teams that can actually win a national championship. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking about the teams that are at the bottom that are probably going to be eliminated in the first round. So is it really that big of an ego boost? I get the financial piece, but from my perspective, I'm fine with a more diverse field at the bottom, meaning more teams from more leagues, because the right SEC teams and the right Big Ten teams and Notre Dame, when it's capable of winning a national championship, they will be in the playoff every single year now that it's tripled in size and may soon quadruple in size from 4 to 16.
Yeah. What's the most amount of losses you think a team's going to get into the playoff in the upcoming years? 8-4, I think, is absolutely going to happen. Can you foresee a 7-5 team getting in?
I sure hope not. I mean that's where, again, I think why we need a selection committee, because if they're putting an 8-4 SEC Big Ten team in over a 10-2 ACC or Big 12 team, then you're doing something wrong. I mean, a 4-loss team shouldn't really make the playoff. I think it's going to be mostly 1, 2, and 3-loss teams. You don't have a lot of undefeateds. Oregon was the only undefeated last year, but I still think you're going to have a decent number, at least, of 2-loss teams, even with these big conferences and tougher schedules. So I think the 4-team playoff was a beauty contest of 1-loss teams. The 12 or 16-team playoff or 14-team, wherever they land, is going to be more of a beauty contest between, I would say, 3-loss teams.
Yeah, I'm with you, too, about the committee. I saw your retweet from the Florida AD who doesn't want a committee. Well, how are you going to pick the teams then? What's he talking about?
Well, again, I think every perspective has to be looked at through where he's coming from. Florida's never made the college football playoff. So if maybe for them, having a 4th automatic qualifier in the SEC is beneficial, that they could work their way in to that number 4 spot. But I think, again, if Florida, and they play a tough schedule many years, including this year, and they did last year, if they go out and post a 10-2 or a 9-3, they're going to have a really good opportunity to make the playoff, if not this year, beginning in 2026.
So if they want a minimum amount of teams in, right, the 4 guaranteed, should we be able to counter, or the committee or whomever else, and say, well, okay, we'll give you the minimum, but there's also going to be a maximum, right? Like there's not going to be a year where you're going to get 7 teams into the field because that's just going to be way too many.
Well, yeah. If you do the math again, if it goes to that, what was it, 4-4-2-2-1? Sounds like a phone number. That then there would only be 3 at-large spots left, and Notre Dame with 4-4 is what I'm bad at now. Yeah, 13. So only 3 at-large spots left. Unless Notre Dame has a pretty disastrous season, it's going to be able to scoop up one of those spots. So you're really only talking about 2 more at-larges. So I think the max for a league in that scenario would really be 6, and I just don't see that happening very, very often. Maybe in a certain year where the league is really good at the top and really good in that sort of second level, but that wouldn't have happened in the Big Ten last year. I mean, the Big Ten had a massive drop-off after its 4 teams that made the playoff. The SEC's argument is that we didn't have maybe the best team last year, but we had a lot of teams that would have been in the playoff had there been more at-large spots. And rather than putting a second ACC team in or whoever, Indiana, we should have had that spot. And I think in some years they'll be right, in some years they won't be. And again, it doesn't matter to me that much because the teams that are supposed to win the national championship, Indiana was never winning the national championship. Guess what? Neither was last year's Georgia team. And you saw that in the quarterfinal. And Notre Dame, I know the score wasn't that lopsided, but Notre Dame beat them down. And Georgia was not going to win the national championship. Neither was Texas. That happens some years. But the right teams were in, and the right teams got to the final game in Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Adam Rittenberg, does a great job covering college football for ESPN, and he's on the Progressive Guest Line. Do you think the timeline, the dates, would they stay like in the same time frame that we have right now if we have the title game still and championship Saturday? Because the first round playoff games at these home sites were kind of affected because of the winter break. And then right now it goes until about January 20th. Is that going to be similar to all these games getting done by January 20th and that winter break involved, or would they have to tinker with that a little bit?
Not with a 4-round playoff. You would just have more games on that first weekend. And then you'd have unknown matchups, obviously, coming out of that first weekend going into the quarterfinal round. But the question is, does the entire schedule move? There's some coaches that would like to start the season in mid to late August and move the start up a week rather than Labor Day weekend for week one.
That's good.
That would obviously, create a little bit more room in December. You completely get rid of conference championship games and start the quarterfinal round. The first round on championship weekend, and then play the quarterfinals where the current first-round games are played. And then you could have the semifinals on New Year's, and the championship game would be more or less where it was under the BCS or under the 14 playoff system. So then you'd be wrapped up a lot earlier in January. I mean, Dave Doran from NC State, he's in favor of starting the season in mid-August. Now, it's pretty hot there in Raleigh. It's pretty hot where you guys are. It's pretty hot to play games there on August 17th, but maybe that's something they have to look at.
Should we scrap the whole thing and just go back to bowl games and that's it?
No, and the reason again, the old college football postseason was bad.
Yeah,
I mean, almost every sport has the other problem where the regular season's bad and the playoffs are awesome. It was the reverse in college football, where you had this awesome regular season and then really kind of a downer of a postseason.
You're right.
With a lot of questions and stupid debates and everybody, who split national champion. Like, who wants a sport with a split national champion? That's an absolute joke. So this is America. We want a champion. We love playoffs in this country. So it was going to go to a playoff system. It's just which playoff system best suits the sport is what they're trying to figure out.
All right. Is there a team that you love as of right now going into next year? I mean, based on like odds or where they might be, and you think they have a great shot based on the schedule and their talent overall to make a deep run?
Well, I look at Penn State. I mean, a lot of these teams that made the playoff last year and made deep runs are replacing quarterbacks, including both teams that played for a national title. Penn State brings back its quarterback in Drew Aller. They have their 2 running backs who are outstanding that are both there. They retain some really good defensive players, even though they lose Abdul Carter. I mean, they seem like a team, like if not now, when, to really compete for and win a national championship. Now, there's other teams you can make a case for, whether it's Texas or Georgia or Ohio State or whoever, but it just has that Oregon. It feels like Penn State, things have set up well for them to take that next step and really make a run for a national title.
Awesome perspective, Adam. Thank you. That was a fun conversation. We appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.
Follow Adam Rittenberg on X. He is at ESPN Rittenberg, and he was on the Progressive guest line.
Play-in games, the worst idea.
Horrible.
Big Ten, SEC get 4 auto bids, the second worst. The third worst idea is probably a 16-team play. Who wants 16? How do we get to 16?
Well, let's talk about that, and we'll run down like title odds and what you're going to have to do moving forward to bet the stuff coming up here on VSiN.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. We're live downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. This is going to be a fun conversation as Chris Bennett joins the program now. He is the sportsbook manager at this great property and beyond for Circa Sports. Good to see you today. Thanks for popping in today. How's everything going?
Great. Enjoying the late May baseball action we're seeing.
Only 5 games today. Little weird.
Very light slate given Memorial Day was busy on Monday.
Yep. So we'll get into most wins in June, which you just posted now at Circa Sports earlier today. But before that, I saw that you responded on X to a writer at ESPN.com, and the headline was, "Why the 2025 Colorado Rockies are every bookmaker's nightmare." You responded to the author on X saying, "Hit me up, Doug Greenberg. I'm a bookmaker, and I can make the price anything I want." You guys take a lot of sharp money here. Your response tells me that you guys are not getting buried on the Rockies. Is that accurate?
We certainly can be from time to time, but it's entirely under our control. We can make the price anything we want. If people aren't betting the Rockies at plus 270, then we should probably raise them, because there is a price where they're going to bet them, where we can confidently say it is a good bet despite how bad they are. And I'm very comfortable making those moves, finding where the sharps want to get involved with the Rockies. And I don't think you're a very good bookmaker if you just sit back and get piled on money on the favorite and don't make any sort of effort to offer a different price than your competitors and find interest on the other side.
And you guys have had no problem doing that for the most part this year.
No, baseball is such a competitive sport. We're talking about a team that still has a 25% chance to win a lot of these games. This isn't like college football where you have a team favored by 50 points and you know they can't lose. So people want to talk about baseball in extremes, but it's really not appropriate. Yes, this Rockies team looks historically bad, but we can put them on the board at 5-1 every day, and we'd write a ton of Rockies money and be very uncomfortable with that liability.
Sure. So it sounds to me like you're embracing booking the Rockies this year. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's fun. We've had some games recently where they were huge underdogs at home, where they've been like somewhat scrappy over the last few years, able to score some runs. And, you know, we find those prices where sharp customers want to bet the Rockies, and they'll pretty much bet as much as we'll let them bet. And when we, find that interest, we feel much more comfortable about taking bets against the Rockies and believing that if we write fairly balanced action, that this is all going to work out in the long run. But yeah, if we're just sitting back saying, all right, this is what other books are offering on the Rockies, we got to stay close to that number. Nobody's betting them. All they're doing is betting against the Rockies, and the Rockies are losing every day. Like, we have no one to blame but ourselves.
Okay. The one thing I love about your app is $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. You put in it right away, it takes it. Mitch has had a problem in the last couple weeks, maybe longer, and with something we discussed before about the spinning, rejecting, and moving the number. How do the frustration level and how books are allowed to get away with that, where I'm giving you information and you're taking it and using it against me?
Yeah, the functionality of the mobile apps does have some variation. So I know our competitors often have a functionality where if you try to risk or win a certain amount, the bet will come up for an approval, and you're just relying on somebody you can't see or talk to on the other end making a decision on if they'll accept that bet or what they're going to reoffer. And hopefully they're not rejecting it entirely, but I know that happens as well. The way our app works, there's just some set limit of risk amount or win amount, and you can have that much, and there is no approval process. If you want to bet more than whatever that limit setting is, then you just need to wait, give us an opportunity to move the line, or there's a set time interval. And once that passes, you can come right back and bet the market again.
Great answers. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Chris Bennett, he is the sportsbook manager here at Circa Sports. You're in charge of, I love this market. I think I've been betting it now for 3 straight years. It's the most wins in a given month for Major League Baseball. It's fun. It's exciting. It comes down to the wire, by the way. I think every single month, with the exception of 2 years ago in April when the Rays won like the first 13 games and they ran away with it then. You're in charge of that. I'm not asking you to give away like the secret formula, but there is, right, like something that you have put together that's like the formula for creating the odds. And can you give us any details on it at all?
Well, I just got out of the laboratory a little bit ago working on the most wins in June market. And the funny thing is, people who don't know what it looks like on the inside of a sportsbook operation think everything we do is super sophisticated, and we've got models and algorithms and computers basically spitting out the answers, the correct probabilities for things. And it's really not like that at all. I'm using various tools and resources, and I'm reasonably good with numbers, but to make the odds for this prop, like, I already have an opinion of how good the teams are relative to one another. I keep up with like the injury situations. I know what the lineups look like every day. I know what the rotations look like. And then I just look at each team's schedule for the upcoming month. And not every team is scheduled to play the same number of games. And the strength of schedule is what causes the most variation in the odds. And that's where I really try to dial in and see, okay, who's got a favorable schedule here for the upcoming month? Because even if they're not one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, they're going to have a good chance to have the most wins during that month.
Okay, okay. Here's the follow-up to that then. Because the Tigers are playing unbelievable baseball 2 months in. They play 26 games this month. 15 of those are at home. Other teams play as many as 28. However, they have 4 against the White Sox, 3 against the Orioles, 3 against the Reds, the Pirates, and the A's. I saw Caesars open 16. I think they were higher than that from what I understand on Detroit. The first number that I saw on the Tigers here at Circa was 5. Is that the opening number on them?
Yes.
So how much does that schedule and how good they are outweigh them having 2 fewer games than other teams this month?
So I will point out that I make these odds on my own without looking at anything.
Oh, okay. Very good.
I'm aware that Caesars is making odds on this as well. And, for this upcoming month, they published theirs before we published ours today. But I don't want to be influenced by anybody else's numbers. So I make my odds. I get it set to the precise margin that I want the market to be offered at. And I do take a look at what they have as well, because it's possible I made some glaring error in my assessment and wouldn't want to offer a certain team at certain odds as a result. But I'm willing to be very different from them and others.
I've noticed, yeah.
And so I just hang what I think are the most accurate odds. And that's what's really interesting about this market right now is there's not that many books offering it and not that many people sort of poring over things to really make the numbers converge, at least at the outset here. For the Tigers specifically, I think they have a pretty favorable schedule for this upcoming month. I know they don't have as many games scheduled as some other teams, but they've just been a really good team overall. Yes, when Skubal's out there, they're probably going to be a huge favorite, but their lineup's been very good. The bullpen is solid, and the rest of the rotation is at least holding their own. So I think they've got a really good chance to have the most wins in June.
Yeah, trust me, I regret not taking 16-1 in the Tigers. I have them this month at 16-1, and they're not going to pull it off. Now, if the Phillies win tonight, I think it's pretty much over with because then they'll have 20 wins and the Tigers will have 18 along with the Cardinals. So it's going to be tough, but I'm with you. The schedule's set up for them, and there are two teams as well that I'm looking at. The Yankees are like 5-1. Boy, the Yankees have an incredible path here in June, in my opinion, just to go on a rampage.
Yes, I also think the Yankees have a very favorable schedule. Just look at their money line prices on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. This is a very highly rated team. There was negativity when Garrett Cole went down preseason, but obviously Aaron Judge is like one of the best hitters of all time, but other guys are contributing both in the lineup and in the rotation. So I made them the favorite for the month of June on the opener at plus 425. There's also two other teams I want to point out that have been a disappointment so far this season, but they have favorable schedules for June. The Diamondbacks and the Rangers. And those teams are always interesting to me because I look at them on paper and say, they're better than what their record is. They've got this favorable schedule here. I don't know what price people want to bet them at, but I know I don't want to go crazy high just because they haven't done well to this point of the season.
That was awesome. Yeah. Very good conversation. Thank you for popping in today. I really appreciate that. And good luck with everything moving forward and the rest of this month for sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
there
guys.
Chris Bennett, Sportsbook Manager here at Circa Sports. I'm also, you know what, I'll hold on to that. I have another team that I want to talk about maybe for the month of June here for the most wins. They're sitting at about 20-1. We'll tell you about that and get into other props on tonight's betting board coming up on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.